Pretty crazy election night last night. The red wave that many people expected did not really materialize. Republicans are now looking to get just a few seat majority in the Senate, perhaps up to plus five is more optimistic estimations for them, but not the landslide victory they were hoping for. And control of the Senate still remains in question, could go either way, both possibilities being about equally as likely as we stand right now, and the GOP losing governorships in key Midwest states. Pennsylvania was expected to be a blowout, but they lost two races that were supposed to be closer in Wisconsin and Michigan, getting blown out in Michigan. Gretchen Whitmer over Tudor Dixon, and Wisconsin, a more slightly narrow margin of victory for Tony Evers over Tim Michaels, but a victory nonetheless. But we still have two main swing states left that we are looking at, Arizona and Nevada. And Arizona is a pretty interesting state, and the vote differentials between the Democratic and Republican candidates are very different for each of the three statewide elections here. I think it's important to examine this. Looking at the Senate, we got Mark Kelly with 51.3% of the vote up, making up just under 5 points above Blake Masters, his Republican challenger, and this margin mainly coming from Maricopa County, makes up 60% of all voters in the county, 71.2% in Kelly, carrying this county by just under 8 points, which is pretty massive for him. However, Maricopa goes usually decides the state, and Kelly being up there is big for him, which means he will probably prevail in that race. Most of the other counties, low population centers that are red, a few dispersed blue ones, and then Tucson area, the next most populous county. Kelly doing very well there, up by over 20 points there, around 24 points. But what really is significant is when you change to governor. And this race is within four tenths of 1 point, which is a stark contrast from the 4.8 point differential in the Senate race there. So if you're looking at Maricopa County, it's only a 4 point difference, and in the Senate race it was a 7.8 point difference. So almost a double the margin of Democratic leads in Maricopa County when you look at Senate versus governor. So split ticket voters certainly a factor here, or voters that decided to vote in one race and not the other, known as ticket skippers. And then when you look at Tucson area, Lake is down by 19 and Masters was down by like 24. So she's making up a lot more ground than her Republican counterpart, and we have to think, okay, why is this happening? Is it because that Katie Hobbs is a bad candidate? Maybe. I think it comes down to campaign mismanagement. Katie Hobbs did not do that well of a job of running her campaign. It was mainly just hey, don't don't vote for this don't vote for this person who's pretty crazy. But I think she could have made better arguments on her policy position than better characterizing Carrie Lake as an extremist and contextualizing the threat that she would pose to democracy if she gets elected in the state. Instead, just a more boring campaign ran by Hobbs, refusing to debate Carrie Lake, which I think it was a big mistake, as I think Hobbs would have humiliated Carrie Lake and really shown Arizona voters who Carrie Lake is. So critical error in my opinion by Katie Hobbs in that aspect. And as Arizona turns more red, it will probably be the case that Carrie Lake will overtake Katie Hobbs and get the victory here, seeing as it's within 8,000 votes, which is very close. And with only 73% in, Lake should be able to flip this seat, which is pretty scary and terrifying, but it's just proof that you need to manage your campaign well, no matter how well your other candidates are doing in the state you live in. Lake came out with a pretty aggressive campaign, has some name recognition as local TV anchor in some spaces, and yeah. But if you look to Secretary of State, you see the margin is what are we at here? 4.5 points approximately between Mark Fincham and Fontes, the normal Democratic nominee, Mark Fincham, extreme election denying Republican guy. So this margin about the same as Mark Kelly has over Blake Masters right now. And looking at Maricopa County, even bigger margins of victory for Secretary of State nominees, up 9 points. Kelly was almost up 8, so only up 8, so pretty close, but still a significant difference. Looking at the Tucson area, around the same margin, slightly less for Fontes than Kelly, but still good performance there. So Arizona is proof that split ticket voters, or skip ticket voters, as some have coined the term, really do make a difference. And we could have a case where in statewide elections, Democrats win some of the races and Republicans win others, which is pretty unique in such a polarized system that we have now, but certainly relevant, something to still look out, to still monitor throughout the coming days. Hobbs could still keep a lead, but Arizona has been leaning red as these more recent votes have been coming in. The gaps have been shrinking in every race, so do think Lake will overtake Hobbs, and the Fontes will hold, and Mark Kelly will hold. But certainly something that we will keep our eye on in the coming days as the votes get counted very slowly.